Hi, this is Danielle with Hollywood Breakthrough, and today we have an amazing guest. We have Jen Grisanti and her consultant company, TV writing, basically help you get to the next level when you're trying to get on television. Jen, thank you so much for coming on the air.
Oh, you got it. It's my pleasure.
You have done everything. I mean, you're an author, you're a blogger, you work for Huffington Post. Some of your clients has been, working on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Wife. You worked for NBC, Paramount Pictures. I mean, I can just go on. House of Lives, some of your clients. Blacklist, some of your clients. Chicago Fire. I mean, you worked with everyone and who's ever been on television.
You're so sweet. No, it's, since opening my company in 2008, I've worked with over 700 writers in television and film. So it's wonderful to be able to celebrate the success and accomplishments of the writers you work with. So I get very excited about that.
How did you get started? I mean, how did you decide to, did you want to always be a writer? How did that all happen with you?
Oh, I'm not a writer. It's funny. I mean, I am. It's so funny. People always say, you are. I've written 3 books. I'm an author, but I'm not a screenwriter. I'm actually, my background, I'm a studio executive. So really, like, the whole thing that makes my brand different is it's the studio executive perspective on story. So I started as an assistant to Aaron Spelling in 1992. I had gone to USC and studied communications and cinema, and then got a job through the entertainment placement company called the Friedman Agency. They only place people in the entertainment business. So I had heard about them. I didn't have any contacts in Hollywood. So I used them and then got placed as an assistant to Aaron Spelling and started in his office in 1992. And that led to a 12-year career journey Spelling. And Aaron was my mentor, and I climbed the ranks of current programming and eventually ran current programming for my last 2.5 years. And when I started, it was when Melrose Place, the original, was first casting, and 90210 had been on for a year at that point. So it was like a very exciting time to start with Spelling, because that was an era when all the business and the shows started happening again, just as it had earlier in his career when he had a ton of shows on ABC.
Right.
And, and so I worked as an executive, and then I got promoted to vice president of current programming at CBS Paramount, where I covered shows including Numbers, NCIS, 4400, and Girlfriends. And that really created my foundation. I would say the studio executive perspective, I got to give notes on up to 5 shows a week, and I got to see my notes made. So that was everything in the training ground of story and developing story to be the best that it could be. I tell people with current programming, which is the department that the show goes to after it's picked up to a series. And the objective of the current programming department is to keep the show on the air, hopefully until through syndication. And so we work on everything from story concept to outline to script to screen, and watch the rough cuts and do notes during the whole creative process. So all of that was everything that created my foundation. I learned from some of the best people in the business, and that allowed me to come into my own voice as a story analyst and a story career consultant for writers.
How difficult, if it is, being a female doing this? Is it mostly a man-dominated area? Because you were an executive for studios.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely was. When I was climbing the ranks, I was often one of 11. It was me and 11 men in the room. So it was there were definitely, I definitely have to say about Aaron Spelling, he was female supporter in a big way. He was a very big female supporter. Our head of production was a woman. Our head of casting was a woman. So as difficult as it could be to be a woman climbing the ranks in what is perceived as a boys' club, as difficult as it was, I was blessed to be at a place where the man at the helm believed in the talent and the voice of women.
Wow. And basically, your consultant, what are you doing right now? How do you usually help a beginner writer? Is it they have to be at a certain stage in their career for you to assist? How does that usually work when there's someone looking for your services?
No, I work with writers at all levels. I work with writers who are coming out of college. I work with writers all the way up to co-executive producer level on shows. I've definitely have had. I've also worked with executive producers. So it really is anyone who can benefit from the studio executive perspective with their story. So there's no, I have many writers who say to me, oh, Jen, I don't want to turn in my script to you until it's perfect. And I'm like, why would you wait for that? Like the process, the creative process is for you to grow. And so you need to be open to submit your script when it's in its green place and know that is the whole growth process. And I people will say, how, when people climb the ladder, do you ever get to a point where you feel confident and secure with where you are as a writer? And the truth is that I definitely believe that there are many writers who get to a very strong place with their voice and their talent. However, no matter what level a writer is at, they can always benefit from a sounding board. So that's where I created this service, because I recognized when I was a studio executive, what I was known for was giving strong development notes. So when I left the studio and contemplated starting my own business, it was really based on the idea of how could I create a business that is really based on my strengths as an executive in everything that I love to do. And everything that I love to do is develop stories. So that is what led to me creating this business and making it available to writers who have an interest in, going the distance. I would definitely say many of the writers that I work with know that they want to be a working writer. Like, they're not people who are just dabbling and saying, hey, maybe I'll write a script. Usually, I would say the majority of writers that I'm working with are writers who know this is my career path and this is the direction I want to go. Now, that being said, I certainly am also open to writers who have an idea that is based on their emotional truth and want to explore it with regards to writing a script.
With some of your program, your consultant you do, how does that work when you have that? They just submit something to you online and say, would I be able to do your classes? How does that work if someone's like, just come to your site and they see your information out there? What are they first thing they have to do? They can submit something and or just go ahead and join one of your classes or your seminars?
Okay, so there are a few ways. They can go to my website, and the best thing for them to do is look under services, and there's a subpage called Writer Proposals page. And it's very much like a spa menu. I give sample consults that I do so that they can get an idea of my rates and services. And then if they don't see something on the pull-down menu that is of interest to them, then I can design services based on what their needs are. A writer coming to me typically will send me an email and say, hey, Jen, I'm interested in setting something up. If they don't know what they want, they look at the menu and they're still like, I'm not totally clear what I want, then I'll set up a half-hour free consult, and that doesn't involve any reading. All of that involves is me sitting down with them talking with them about where they're at in their career and where they want to go and what they hope to accomplish with the service. Then I'll help design a service that will fit their needs.
Basically, you do things around that particular person.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That is nice.
Thank you.
What's some of the things that you think you hear young writers struggling with? Not talking about age-wise, but just young writers who are just starting out. Maybe they're an author and they have a book, but they kind of want to make that transition to doing something for TV. What are some of the hurdles that you're hearing that you can tell us?
Well, I mean, the biggest hurdle is getting noticed, is getting the right people to read your material. But what I tell writers that they need to focus on, number one thing you need to focus on is creating a strong writing portfolio. Because if your writing portfolio is in a strong place, I definitely am a believer that strong writing will find its way. So focus first on creating a strong writing portfolio, and what you need for television, to succeed in television, you need there are many people who don't believe you need a current spec of a current television show that's on the air, but I actually, from having staffed over 15 shows, know that you do need one current spec that is less than 2 years old. Any show that you're passionate about on television that is a step toward where you want to go. So I always tell writers to think about, if you were to staff on any show that you wanted, what would be the top 3 to 5 shows? And then I tell them to create a writing portfolio that's going to get them to that destination. And then you want 2 original pilots. And then for the 3rd original, I would recommend either writing a play, a one-act, or a feature. So ideally, for a strong writing portfolio, you're looking at 1 current television spec and 3 originals, including 2 original pilots, and then 1 that could be a play, a one-act, or a feature, or a short.
When you work with some of the writers and they get picked up by maybe a network or television, and they show either doesn't make it out of the gate or does make it out the gate and all of a sudden it's abruptly, canceled or removed. Are you talking to them about, getting back out there? Because I'm sure there's a crush to writers when that happens. How are you dealing with those type of writers that happen to?
Okay, you're asking about writers who staff on a show and then the show gets canceled or they get let go within the first season.
Right.
Okay, so in that case, what I do is I definitely work with writers. I've worked with writers on redefining their career path. I've worked with writers who are drama writers who suddenly want to become comedy writers, or comedy writers who suddenly want to become drama writers. When writers get let go or the show gets canceled, the struggle and the challenge with that life experience is very often, if you didn't do a full season and you're at the staff level, you're going to stay at the staff level. So it's going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be as difficult to get that next job, because if you've got a first job, then you're one step forward. So then it's all about relationships. It's all about, I always tell writers, like, when you're on a writing staff, you want to be the best you. You want to show up before everybody. You want to leave after everyone. You want to be there and do everything. You just want to make a very, very strong impression on the people that you're around, because very often when shows get canceled, many of those writers will immediately be picked up, certainly the upper level writers, to other shows. And if you made a strong impression on them, there are many executive producers who like certain writers and carry them with them wherever they go. So it's really understanding how important and valuable it is to make strong relationships.
You have podcasts and a weekly tip you do. What are some of the tips you like to give some of your writers in your podcast or your weekly subscription to people?
Well, it's my Storywise subscription. The podcast I used to do a lot more. I actually have 65 podcasts that are free that are up on iTunes. And then I have a monthly subscription where every 2 weeks I give story tips and podcast tips from the transcripts of the podcast that I've done.
Oh,
and
okay.
then also, part of my story subscription is that writers pay $22.95 a month. And for that, they'll get story tips, they'll get podcast tips, and then every month they can turn in a 1 to 2 page pitch document and get written feedback, and they can turn in 3 to 5 log lines. So really, the subscription is to make it more affordable for writers who don't have a lot of money, who want accountability to be going on. And then I expose them. And then with my story tips, I very often am giving them information that I do, like on my StoryWise teleseminar or during the TV Writer Summit or the TV Writer Studio. I'll give them notes from those classes. So it really is grooming writers how to create their own destination with the writing path.
And what about your seminars you do? How does that usually work for people if they want to catch you in the seminar?
Well, okay, so on my website, which is jengrisanticonsultancy.com or jengrisanti.com, I have a page called Events and Seminars. And on that page, I give my latest events and seminars. And then what they could do, like yearly, there are certain things that I do every year. And those things include the TV Writers Summit and the Great American Pitch Fest I've done for the last 5 years, and I'm doing it again this year. Story Expo is in September 11th through 13th. I will be teaching at that. And then I have my StoryWise 10-week teleseminar that goes from March through May.
How important events are? Are they fairly important for people to come out and do these events?
You know, it's interesting because I have done seminars in Australia. I've done seminars in Israel. I've done seminars in London. And the fascinating thing about the other countries, when you go there, top-level writers show up to these events. Yet in LA and New York, you're not, well, actually in New York, I would say we actually have more working writers there than I had imagined. But in Los Angeles, you typically attract writers from all over the world and the U.S. who fly in for the weekend. So you're not getting working writers per se, but you're getting writers who want to be working writers. And I'm a believer personally that writers should educate themselves all the way up their career. So I'm definitely a believer that many of these events serve a humongous purpose on creating longevity when it comes to your writing career.
It's how important to these network with other writers, such as yourself, trying to get that more reads about what they can do better?
Everything's important. I mean, everything's important when it comes to writing. So by attending events that are out there, what you're doing is you're going to places with people who share your passion. And by understanding and networking and talking with these people and befriending these people, you are taking a step forward in your own path. And as I say, like these events have some of the top authors in story teaching at these events. And I mean, they're very often when I have extra time in between classes, I'll go listen to these speakers, and I love the events. Like I always say a teacher for a moment and a student for life. So we're always learning.
By looking at some of the shows on television right now, I know you've done a lot of your writers, your clients have been different things, like I said, The Good Wife and House of Lies, things of that sort. By looking at television right now, what do you think about the internet coming into that landscape now? First was reality TVs, now it's the internet. Is that changing anything for writers to be able to write for that, or just basically it doesn't really matter?
I believe that reality informs scripted very much. I definitely believe that reality is opening opportunities for writers. I have many clients that I work with who work in the reality world, and I believe it's all story. So I definitely feel like what tools they're learning on working in the reality world will apply to the scripted world. And I definitely believe that the scripted world, what we can learn from the reality world is more about character and looking at why are certain participants popular and why does the audience hate other participants, and really understanding the essence of backstory and how story plays in to what an audience likes and what they don't like. So I definitely believe that yes, there is opportunity in these formats for writers, and there's also, you know, there's financial security. I mean, the reality world pays very good money. So I think the hard part is that many people will start working in the reality world and then have trouble jumping into the scripted world because they don't have the time to write. But there are definite pluses there.
With your busy schedule, do you have time to watch TV right now and see the works of some clients? Is there something you can say?
Yeah.
You can't?
Definitely. Oh, yeah. No, television is my life. I mean, as crazy busy as I am, and people get astounded by what I'm able to watch. I'm definitely, I love binge watching, love binge watching. So I love being able to watch, 8 episodes in a weekend. And I am big on that. My favorite shows, and you asked about the internet, definitely Amazon Prime Transparent is definitely one of my favorite new shows, and definitely feel that the internet is creating tremendous opportunity for writers. And House of Cards on Netflix is definitely one of my favorite shows. I would say on network television, I love Good Wife. I love The Blacklist. I love Modern Family. I love The Mindy Show. I love on cable, I love Silicon Valley. I love Masters of Sex. I love The Affair. I love Broadchurch. I like the foreign shows. I love Borgen, which is a Denmark show. I know that I'm missing. I love Homeland. I actually think Homeland had a very, very strong season last year. So I'm very excited to see what goes on this year. I like Scandal. I like, television is in a very, very strong place right now. So I definitely feel that the writing in TV far surpasses the writing in features at this point. But I have to admit that there were a good batch of films up for the Oscars this year. So I was very happy to see some tremendous accomplishment there.
Right. Is it difficult for women to write? I mean, is it difficult to have a space in TV compared to feature? Or is it about the same?
Women have made tremendous strides. Certainly since I started my career in 1992, I would say women have made huge strides in television writing. I definitely think there's still a large jump that we have to do. I definitely feel that women are still need to be making strides in television and film, as well as directing in television and film. So as much as I think we've made some huge jumps in the last 20, 25 years, I do think that there is still a ways to go. And I want to believe that, I work with a lot of female writers, and there's a lot of tremendous talent out there. So I definitely feel that it is a good time for women to get into it and to be strong. I think the biggest key when I look at the psychological reason that some writers make it while others don't, I've found that the biggest key is belief. Because if you don't believe in your writing, that no one else is going to. So I definitely believe that belief and confidence mixed with talent and execution and being a team player are all qualities that contribute to whether a writer will work or not. And there are many writers who, I believe have the talent, and whether they're a man or a woman, tend to get in their own way of success,
Right.
When I look at emotional space, like where you are at emotionally and how accessible you are to your own story, as well as how strong are you in a room. And when I talk about like emotions in a room, I definitely feel that when I talk about writers getting in their own way, like you really need to understand how to read a room, how to understand the temperament, how to not feel too needy, how to contribute enough but not too much. So it's a challenge. It's a very strong challenge, and but it's worth it when you do it and you do it well. And you're always learning. And you only learn from making mistakes. So I always say, embrace your falls because they're there for a reason, and there's so much to learn from them.
Basically, a really beginner writing, I think they might be afraid maybe because they see that you have done so much work and they're at a certain level. How can they calm themselves down to say, you know what, she can't help me in these services? Because even though you have done these big clients, what kind of you can say to someone who's really starting out, who just did, one or two different things? What can you say to keep them say, hey, you know what, it's okay. Your service can definitely help them still.
Well, I can give them a sense because I've probably read 7,000 scripts in my career. So I can give them a sense of where they're writing it and how far they need to go with regards to the idea of getting staffed or selling scripts. So that's the number one thing. I can definitely give them a sense of where they're at. The number two thing, I am a believer that story is so valuable. Like our connection to the destination of story only works if I sell the script or if I staff. I don't believe is always true. I definitely believe that story serves the purpose of healing. And I definitely believe that people, regardless of whether the destination is part of their journey or not, there is a purpose and an importance in writing your story, especially if you eat, breathe, and live, and this is what you want to do, then you have to do it. And so I definitely think, part of what I work with writers on is understanding this is a journey. When I started my career in 1992, many of the writers that I helped staff then at the lower level are now starting to sell pilots. And, this is, 20, 24 years later. So it's a journey. It's not an overnight thing. It's a journey. And then there are writers who sell pilots right away and never staff and just create pilots. So I think it's really understanding your voice and understanding your path. And then it's really getting people to see your value in the market.
Do you think it's important that people move to LA to be a writer? You think they can do it anywhere, or they should really make the voyage to go to LA to stay because that's where all the studios are?
I think it's imperative. I don't think that it's possible unless you are hyper connected in some way to create a writing career outside of Los Angeles. I think it's possible after you've created the career to leave LA and write from other places. But I think to begin a writing career, you do have to be in Los Angeles. I've seen people do it from New York. I would say it's possible from New York, but I would say LA is definitely key in pursuing a television writing career.
What gets you excited about a writer?
It's funny. I had this conversation the other day, and I said, it's something you can't put into words very often, but like there were two female writers last year that I knew as soon as I read the very first script, that there was something there. They understood story, and then when we worked together on several scripts, seeing their process and seeing how they took notes, they interpreted notes, and then they made the notes their own through threading it through the whole story, that just gave me a sense. I would say, you know when there's a voice, when you know that you emotionally respond to the story. When you're, very often I'll tell writers, if there's not something in your story that I am dying to know with regards to a question coming out of your opening dilemma that your resolution will answer, then your story is not working. So I think it's creating an emotional ride and intensity where we're dying to find out what happens. And I think creating that emotional connection and that kind of momentum is key. And then I think, certainly in writing pilots, the key is finding a concept that's viable in the market, that the market's going to jump on. And I think that, understanding voice and understanding concept and the marketability all is connected with the success of a writer.
What is one thing you can say to someone that might be struggling with their writings right now?
Okay, I would say understand your emotional truth, because until you can understand how to mine your story from within, then that is going to be the key. Like I think working with writers who are comfortable in their own skin, and you can feel it in their writing because they own their story. They understand their personal story. And I would say now more than ever, it's understanding that the script you write should reflect why you are the perfect writer for that story. So it's really having, I would say, if anything I could say to newer writers, it's understanding what is your emotional truth, what are your personal stories that could be fictionalized, that you can move into fiction, add fiction to your truth in the stories that you tell. So really understanding that your emotional truth is what will get you where you want to go.
Wow, yes. We're going to have all your information up. That's jengarsanti.com. And we want people to definitely go to your services because, like you said, it doesn't really matter what level you're on. You have something for everyone. And like you said, you actually, make something around that particular writer who needs the help. And that's the great thing about your service, because it's not just one fit all. You're going to really cater to that particular person and just kind of make them, draw them to be a better writer. And that's where they need to be.
Yes. The most important thing to me with writers is understanding what they want to say with their story. So I definitely feel that by not only having services available that are, obvious services, and then knowing that I can cater something that will help them get to where they want to go is all part of it. Yes.
And one of those writers that I actually interviewed was Sterling Anderson. And he just talked how amazing you are over and over again.
He's phenomenal. I adore him. I think he is fantastic.
He said you helped him a great deal. So that's nice to know that.
I love to hear that. Thank you.
You helped him in his career.
It is a fascinating thing because I always remember Aaron Spelling saying, which I loved, I can open the door, but they have to walk through it. So it's recognizing you can give somebody a kernel that will help with their growth, but ultimately the person is responsible for taking it where it's going to go. So I find tremendous gratitude when I see people make it to very big places in the career, and I see them suddenly be able to buy houses and have kids and create the picture that they always wanted. There's nothing more gratifying than seeing success happen to somebody who put the work in believed in it and made it happen. And being a part of that journey in any way is a gift.
Do you have like a big wall full of everybody you ever work with, like a huge 7,000 people of everyone?
It's interesting. I think when you were an executive, you definitely kept tabs on like who you open the door for, who you staff, this and that. I think as a story career consultant, I'm coming from a different place because I think my motivation is more not based on what the studio wants or what the network wants, but is based on making the story the best that it possibly could be. So therefore, then the studio or network wants it. So my motivation for wanting them to find success is coming from a different place. And because of that, I don't know, like I definitely celebrate the accomplishment. Anytime writers tell me, oh, Jen, I got staffed. Oh, Jen, I sold a pilot. Oh, Jen, it went to series. Like I celebrate that. Like my whole community knows when the writers that I work with have steps towards success. So I definitely celebrate that. I have never sat down and done a whole list of them though. I love that. That's cute.
I was wondering because I bet it'd take up a couple walls.
You're very sweet. Thank you very much.
I know you got to get going because you have a lot of things going, and we want to make sure we, put everything up that you've done, making sure that people go out to you because it's really important because you're there to provide a service, and that service can be really beneficial to someone just starting out or even a beginner or someone who's kind of in the season at every level. So you are definitely a blessing to people out there that need to, your services. And I hope people will reach out to you and say, hey, I learned something and I need your help.
I love it. Thank you very much. No, this is great. Really appreciate it. I want everyone to know that there is no greater journey than the writing journey, and really be in it. Don't be attached to the destination. Recognize there are gifts along the way and do the work and things will happen.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jen. Really appreciate it.
You got it.
All right.
No problem. Thank you for having me.